Welcome to the Knighthood Podcast, a comprehensive weekly analysis of the Newcastle Knights 2024 NRL season, brought to you by Michael and James. So fire up and let's go. Hey mate, how's things?
Yeah, mate, doing good. Coming off the back of a pretty poor performance though, but actually a very poor performance. But other than that, in general life, things are going well. But yeah,
General life is good.
Night.
That's good.
Yeah, but the Knights
you're looking good
dragging me down.
Dragging you down.
Dragging me down. There we go.
Holy shit. God, it was a terrible match last week. Hard to endure that. I was really looking forward to it as well. Like, really, it was Friday night. It was a bit cold and wet outside, and yeah, just wanted to snuggle in and watch a good performance, and couldn't have went much worse.
No, it was. I think we're talking off air. I didn't see it coming. I felt really good coming into that game. I thought we'd been playing a tough style, defensive style, and defensively looked really good. I didn't see such coming off the bye, they should have been fresh. I didn't see like just a total lack of energy and a complete lack of basically wanting to be there, and that shouldn't happen at home in front of 21,000 people sitting out in the rain. It was pretty disgraceful, actually.
Yeah, God, 21,000. That's what they reported. You can hear the sirens. Even the cops here in Sydney putting on the sirens in shame of the night's performance.
Yeah.
Bit of background noise there, but yeah. Look, it's really disappointing. I think, we're doing this to review the whole season and to ride the ups and downs, and this is definitely a little dip in the season. And now to be beaten twice by the Bulldogs, full credit to the Bulldogs. They definitely turned their club and their team around within one season, and they definitely deserve some credit. But yeah, we've saved our worst performances for the Bulldogs this year, and it's quite frustrating. It's just so up and down. It's a bit like the kettle. It's hot, it's cold, it's medium warm, it's lukewarm. Like take your pick. It's very it's hard to predict what team's going to turn up and how they're going to play. I mean, we know how they're going to play. They're going to play pretty conservative footy, which I don't have a problem with, because I think I don't mind the conservative footy as long as they aim up and they give 100%. And we'll get into a full analysis of the match. I felt that they didn't turn up in the wet and do what they've done the previous 3 or 4 games when they played well. And to me, it looked like they wanted to get away from doing what works. And then they just don't have the ability to adapt. So yeah, really frustrating, just talking out loud. We've got a format. We'll go through it all in a bit more detail and try and drill down on what went wrong. And we're going to have a look at obviously the match coming up this week against the Storm on Sunday at 2 p.m. in Amy Park in Melbourne. A couple of players backing up from Origin there for the Storm, and we don't have any. So you would expect a bounce back from our side. But now we're massive underdogs and we don't have a good record down there in Melbourne, and Melbourne will be keen to square up, I think, from us getting them 14-12 at home this year in round 3.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, out of this 3-game period, I expected us to win against the Dogs, and I thought the Melbourne game was the hard, playing every game's a hard game, but playing Melbourne in Melbourne, then coming back to play the Panthers, I thought the Melbourne one would be the hardest to win.
Well, we went over it in full detail last week, and we'll have a little bit more of a look at it as well. But, we were getting quite excited about the potential of what we could achieve in this 3-week period. And now we've lost to the Dogs. It's quite deflating, and it just throws off any type of excitement that I had for this team, and the rest of the season's quite uncertain. And I don't think we're too far off potentially a pretty steep, slippery slope, to be frank.
Yeah, I think that's what makes it so disappointing is that leading into, after had the bye, leading into this game against the Dogs, they had everything to play for to come out of the next 3 weeks and into another bye, heading, possibly looking at a top 4 position. And,
yeah,
we've taken from position to close to, I think we're in 11th now. So just from that loss.
Yeah, well, we'll get into it when we look at I've gone back in and I've done the NRL adjusted ladder because, the comp's all over the place. You've got some teams now have had 2 byes. You've got teams who haven't had a bye, I think, and it's just all over the shop. So we've taken some time to analyze the ladder and put it in a format that makes it a little bit more accurate in terms of where we sit as a team in this competition, NRL 2024 season. And look, let's get into our round 13 review and our round 14 preview in full detail. Looking forward to the next hour or so of you, mate. So we'll get cracking into it. We'll do our full review of the round 13 match, run over our 3-2-1 update for Player of the Year, have a look at the NRL adjusted ladder. Then we'll have a look at where we stand in the season, 2024 NRL season. Is it a pass or is it a fail? And then we'll go back into that segment, the run home, James. We've touched on it, and we've got a couple of matches now before the bye coming up against the Storm and the Panthers. And, where we've got a great opportunity still. We did say that we'd, aim to go for two from 3. That'd be a good result and still possible. So we'll run all through that. That'll be the first half of the show. And then we're going to do a round 14 injury and suspension update for the Knights and the Storm. We'll run into our team list review, look at who the ref is, and you'll be interested to tune into that tonight because we're really up against it with this ref that we've got this week. We'll have a look at the weather. Round 14 analysis, the final analysis, we'll run over some thoughts there. We'll have a look at our top sport season betting review. So we both had a bit of a loss there with the betting last week, which was super disappointing. We've done well this year overall. We've got a good winning record and we're having a profitable season still. But yeah, in terms of betting and predicting outcomes, it's getting a little bit difficult. It's tough going at the moment. Yeah. So anyway, we'll get into that, and then finally we'll do our tips for the week. But as you can probably tell so far tonight, there's not a lot of confidence coming from me. So look, the Bulldogs, they came to Newcastle and they beat us 32-2. We couldn't score a try. Absolute shambles of a performance against in front of 21,000 Novocastrians. God, just so disappointing. Do you want to run over these stats, James? We'll run over some team stats of what happened during the match, as long as you can read it.
I can't actually. It's quite small. That stuff. Yeah,
okay.
If you can read it.
I can run over this bit. So, look, let's get into the stats. We won't, go into too much detail. But there are some things here that we probably should touch on if we're going to do this review comprehensively and look for any clues that can help us predict an outcome for the upcoming match against the Storm this week. Our possession was 48%, so we lost possession. Our territory was 52%, so we had better field position. We just tend to make the most of it. And overall, we ran for 1,149 meters. The Bulldogs ran for 1,234. So both teams pretty low in the run meters there. If we look at the tackle burst, we led that 42-22. So physically, we didn't make as many meters, but physically it seemed like we were breaking tackles. And our post-contact meters was pretty even there with the Bulldogs, 384 meters compared to 374. We did 9 offloads compared to the Bulldogs 6. So, I mean, that might kind of explain why we didn't. I think in their mind, they're coming off the bye. They wanted to improve their play. They wanted to improve their attack. And I just think they picked the wrong night for it. It just didn't work. Unless you're doing a late offload, you just hold the ball. And I don't think if out of those 9 offloads, how many of them were effective? Not many. Which is, probably the most important thing that we should always be looking at. But teams this year who do late offloads in sets, that's the thing that really adds in a bit of a spark to the attack, puts a question mark in the defense. So I'd like to see the Knights do more late offloads if they do them. Line breaks was 4-0. We didn't make one line break. Jeez, what do you think about that, James? That's hopeless.
Yeah, pretty ordinary.
Have we ever not made a line break? Is that a record? Like that's fucked.
Yeah, I mean, usually there's something going on, but that's pretty damning, isn't it?
That's terrible.
Sums up the whole how that game panned out for us.
Yeah, well, there might be a bit of French on tonight's Knighted podcast. We're both really passionate Knights supporters, and some of these stats are going to get the emotions boiling a bit, like the kettle. So, look, we completed 28 sets, and they completed 38, so they completed 10 more sets, which means they controlled possession, they controlled the ball. They overall did better than us. We had 34 tackles inside of their 20, and they had 28 by the looks of it there. And we'll keep rolling through some of these stats. Set restarts are pretty even there. 3 to the Knights, 2 to the Bulldogs. Defense, missed tackles, only 22 missed tackles for the Knights, but I mean, it doesn't really tell the picture at the end of the day, does it? Because, they scored something like 6 tries to our 0. And the Bulldogs made twice as many missed tackles, but they turned up for each other and they backed each other up. The commentators were making comment on that. So we stuffed up our captain's challenge again. We're not very good at that at all. That's another Marju stuff up. Brayley asked Marju if he made the error, or can't remember exactly what he did, but he stuffed up and
he believed him and he went for it.
Yeah, it should never have been the challenge. They just got no idea when it comes to captain challenges, which is going to bite us one day. It'll cost us a game. So we made 15 errors versus the Bulldogs 6. So, that kind of grinding style of play that we did show it at the start, that it looked like we were going to aim up and play a similar style. It just went out the window when you make 15 errors. To me, it looked like they, what Adam O'Brien says, they got their feel good. They wanted to get their feel good from scoring points and doing cross-field kicks and trying to do it the easy way. And it doesn't aim up at NRL level. And I just don't get it that, we win 4 in a row with that style of play. And then you turn up at home against a depleted Bulldogs side and you don't continue to do that same game plan or execute that game plan. It just baffles me. So, the stats show that there with the errors, and we got out-kicked massively, 867 metres to 504 metres. So Cogger and Hastings as a kicking combination has failed us there. Is there anything else there that really stands out? Not really.
I think you'd find with with our errors, the majority of those errors would have been in that second half. I think that's everything went downhill after that, because the first half in general, like when I was watching it, I thought there was a lot of effort, especially in the forwards, but especially when we spent time in that, down in their end, we just weren't doing a lot with it.
Yeah, there's definitely effort, and but the Bulldogs kind of scored against the run of play, and we just seemed like you actually mentioned to me it was similar to the Canberra match where we could probably look better in the first half, but we were behind, and then we came out in the second half and it just got worse. And it's pretty much a carbon copy of that, isn't it?
Yeah, I thought it was. Yeah.
So here's the player stats up on the screen. Are there any players there? I mean, I can name a couple. But what are your thoughts here in terms of who cost us the win? Who's actually not aiming up in this team, in this 17?
Look, I think in that game, and I'm not going to bag him because he's had one bad game, but Armstrong made some pretty telling errors. But again, I'm not going to crucify him. He's young. That's one bad game, so hopefully he can move on from that. Marzu sort of enough. Marzu again can be a bit ordinary. I thought Mapalangi was not overly impressive for me. Like, I don't think he showed a lot.
Showed nothing.
Honestly, I didn't see anything really from the backs. Any sort of impressive stuff that I saw, and mainly in that first half, came from KPP, Adam Elliott, and Saifidi. And if you look at the forwards' numbers, they weren't particularly great in general, were they? But
no, but I don't think our problems was really the forwards.
No, I don't think it was at all. No.
Yeah, no, it was. It's definitely cohesion in the spine, and game plan execution and leadership on the field, and being able to adapt to a game plan. Having a plan B, being able to adapt to the conditions and the match as it goes on. We just don't seem to be able to do that, and that's on Hastings and that's on Brayley. They're the two players. It's also on Cogger.
Look, he was way out of sorts as well. He had a shocker.
Yeah, he did have a shocker. Some of those, like the Armstrong when he fell over and then Cogger tripped over him. That was like a circus. And Cogger just looked like he was in first gear. He just didn't.
Yeah.
He had no spatial awareness, and then he tripped over. That's just hopeless. And then with the Addo-Carr try,
lack of energy.
Remember, well, he let him get on the outside and showed him the sideline. You don't do that. What player in his right fucking mind does that to Addo-Carr? He's the last player in the comp that you do that to.
Yeah, he just looked to have the concrete shoes on there. He just wasn't even thinking that Addo-Carr was going to do that. It's like it comes back to awareness. And he just wasn't there mentally, I don't think.
Yeah, but what's causing that? The coaches backed him. When we get into looking at the season pass or fail for the year, the coaches actually backed Cogger and put him ahead of the team in some cases, in my opinion, playing him from 14 off the bench and probably giving him a start when he maybe shouldn't have got a start, and dropping Gamble. It's disappointing. It's disappointing to see Cogger play at that level after he's really out of any player in this team this year. You would say that O'Brien has backed him the most. I would say that.
Yeah. And I think one thing that I've noticed since watching Hastings and Cogger work together is that I think it's pretty obvious how much we need Gamble in the halves. He's full of energy, and he's a way more energetic player than
Will Price. We're going to get onto it. So it's we haven't even seen this guy, and we're halfway through the season officially. 12 games we've played, and we haven't seen Will Price and KPP, who also came from England. He's played 12 matches, and he leads. We'll show you soon. He leads the Knighted Player of the Year leaderboard. So how Will Price can't get one match in first grade is just beyond me. And then, as you mentioned to me before we went on air, O'Brien was pretty negative about Will Price in the press conference publicly. So, one gripe I've got with the club that's happened for a long time is that there's some players, like, for example, Zach Hosking. Zach Hosking was at this club for a number of years playing in reserve grade, never got an opportunity, then went on to other clubs and, has done really well for himself and gets a lot of praise from commentators and ex-players and stuff. So it's I think there's a culture of sometimes just some players, they get a mark on them and they never get their opportunity. And at the moment, the way it's looking is Will Price. He's in that boat. Matt Crocker this year, he's also on that same boat. Let's have a bit more of a closer look into it. I mean, Brodie Jones is earned his spot this year, and he's playing quite well, and I'm glad to see him in the team. The Safidis, we're not seeing too much. I don't think there's been one match where both Safidi boys have played a 8 out of 10 plus game together.
No.
But they continue to get supported by the coach. Obviously Frizzell's been supported by the coach. Crossland's been pretty well supported by the coach. Adam Elliott, the kettle, he's definitely been supported by the coach. Lucas, even though Lucas is having a good season, at the start of the season, he wasn't 100% supported by the coach. KPP has been supported pretty much all season. I think he was only benched once. Thompson and Jacob Safidi have been, Brayley. So all of these players are pretty well backed by the coach from this 17. And, obviously Hastings, he got dropped earlier in the season, and the coach, he couldn't get it right with Cogger and Hastings and Gamble. And the halves has been a bit of a shambles. And as we touched on there, Will Price hasn't got his shot. And everyone's calling for it at the moment. Supporters and ex-players, Andrew Johns and us. I'm not sure how strong you are on it, James, but I definitely want to see him in the side. But then if you look at Marju, the coach has backed Marju, and in my opinion, he's the most inconsistent player in this team, and he's a liability. I don't think his head's screwed on right, and but he gets picked week in, week out. He's been named this week on the wing. Doesn't look like he's going to get dropped. So I don't know. There's just like some double standards. Like, I look at Marju and look at the errors that he's made this year, and then you don't back someone like Price. I don't know. It's not. I'm going through it one by one to show that it's not overall. It's not a common theme, but definitely. There's Mothendriki as well. I mean, where is he? He scored a couple of tries in reserve grade last week. He's got the right frame. He's got the height. He's now got. He's played pretty consistent, I think, in reserve grade this year. And you continue to back someone like Marju, who's just not screwed on right, and just makes critical errors at the times when we don't need it. And I mean, apart from that, there's only one or two there. But why are these players not getting picked when the performance is clearly not there from Marju or Cogger?
Yeah, and I think the example of Will Price, especially the way the Knights are at the moment, with they need someone who's going to provide some flair, X factor, and be a bit of a threat to the defense, and he's exactly that. So I don't know why you wouldn't at least look into that option, because, he's going to – opposition teams aren't really going to know what he's capable of because they haven't really been exposed to him. So his initial exposure to playing first grade, like a lot of players, can be pretty dynamic because opposition teams don't know him.
The problem for me is that Mothendriki and Price are both built for their positions on the wing and Price at 5'8", and they were both in my starting team at the start of the year, and now it's round 12, and I haven't seen either of them. And the form of Marju and Cogger doesn't warrant being selected in this side, in my opinion. And at the end of the day, I think I watched an interview with Peter Parr the other day, and his assessment of our year so far is that we're a couple of wins short. He mentioned that we probably should have come home with the chocolates against I think it was the Cowboys and the Roosters. He cited those two games that we should have won. And it's pretty hard to argue with him there. And so, I mean, he's virtually Adam O'Brien's boss, or almost. He thinks we're a bit under par. We should have won a couple more games. And, I think a big reason why we didn't win those games is because of the uncertainty in the halves. Not the Roosters game. I thought actually Cogger played pretty well. He played that match and he played pretty well, and I thought they were looking pretty good. It was more the ref in that game, but I think the instability at the start of the season in the halves contributed, especially the Raiders game and the Cowboys match. And anyway, look, it's a frustrating thing as a long-time supporter of the club to see players, this story about, you've got to prove yourself in reserve grade, or, you've got to, work on certain things in your game. Sometimes, I said this in the season preview, sometimes you've just got to pick the right players in the right spot, and your job as a coach is to actually do your job and to coach them. And when it comes to Moth and Drakey, clearly we're ranked, I think, second last in attack, maybe last now for last week. And why wouldn't you pick a tall, rangy winger that seems to be ticking the boxes in reserve grade? And why wouldn't you pick an English kid that's been recruited to come to the club to play 5'8"? He's showing a lot of good highlights in reserve grade. Not watching all of the 80 minutes of each match, but he's showing enough to get a run. So that at the end of the day, this could be the difference. So I think the thing that I wanted to touch on tonight is, okay, our job is to be critical on the performance of this club this year, right? One way or the other. Let's call it black and white. We're underperforming. We are 6 from 6 wins, 6 losses after 12 matches, but we really should we could be potentially a 9 wins, which would actually put us in the top 4 amongst the top, 3 teams. And it wouldn't have taken too much for us to win another 3 games. And at the start of the year, we were excited. The club was excited. They wanted to aim to be in the top 4. That was their goal. And we were saying that they had a squad that could potentially make the top 4 and potentially definitely challenge for, to be there in the 8, but the challenge for the top 4. So as a club, from last year, and as a team, we were looking to improve and be there as a consistent challenger for the top 4. And right now, you could say that I'm disappointed. What are your thoughts at this point in the season?
Yeah, I'm disappointed. I'm mainly disappointed with we put in so much effort after the Ponga injury, and we sort of built another way of winning games and style. And then, last week's win can be catastrophic. We don't know what's going to happen after this, how it's going to affect the boys, and are they just going to crumble into a heap? I hope they don't. But that can just derail a whole season. And
as quick as we could have. Yeah, it is disappointing. Like we did all that hard work to get ourselves in a position to capitalize, and then they just dish that up. So look, there's a lot of disappointed Knights fans out there, and we're just probably touching on the key points as to why we're disappointed. As supporters, and we invest a fair bit of time into this every week. We want to see our side performing at a level of a top 4 side and acting like a top 4 club. And unfortunately, there's just a couple of little things. So my question to you, James, is Adam O'Brien, is he a coach that's going to get us consistently performing and challenging for a top 4 position?
Going off past seasons and results, I can't say yes.
It's inconsistent, isn't it?
Yeah, and it has been since he's been here. And
he hasn't. There's been key things that he could have done this year, and I think it's around the selection of the halves that could have potentially got us those extra couple of wins. And now he's being stubborn with Will Price and.
But what's
no Moth and Drakey.
What's strange to me though is that
look, I just got to put on the road. I'm not out here to throw knives at Adam O'Brien. I don't. We need him to be successful. The last thing we need to do is go to market and find another coach. And the last thing we want to be doing on this podcast is talking about underperforming side. So it's the last thing I want. I want him to be successful, and I want him to be our long-term coach. But, God, God, I look at Brad Arthur, right? If I'm a leader at the club, and I've just seen Brad Arthur get the axe at the Eels. He's 50. He's taken the Eels to a grand final. He's got way more experience than O'Brien as a first grade coach. He's on the market, and I bet he'd be fired up to turn things around after his exit there at the Eels. And I'd be looking at Brad Arthur real close. If this performance continues to slide and we don't perform at a level where we should be.
Well, I mean, let's face it. If we didn't go on that run last year, AOB would be gone. That's what saved his ass. So
pretty much, yeah. It wasn't looking good for him.
No,
but they turned it around, and he was the coach, so he deserves. He definitely deserves another season. And then, but it's kind of like, if you're buying a stock, why would you buy the stock when it's gone up? You know, like you try and buy stock when it's low, good stock when it's low, and it goes up. So that's what I'm saying about Brad Arthur right now. And I'm not saying we should sign Brad Arthur, but what I am saying is that if our performance doesn't improve consistently, we need to become a more consistent football side. If we don't become a more consistent football side, when really we should be, we've got to look at the options. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I'm looking at your swing the axe little title there, and the one thing that stood out to me when I was we'll get into the team list a bit later, but when I was looking at the team today, I thought, if that performance on the weekend didn't warrant any players getting dropped, then what the hell does?
Well, we don't know. We don't know if he's playing games, and we won't know until the kickoff. So this is why I personally not making betting decisions now at this stage in the week, because we don't know what the team is. And Will Price has been named on an extended bench. So anyway, just some things that I wanted to bring up tonight. I wanted to question our consistency and where we stand, and some of the decisions being made amongst the playing group. And if it was me, and we'll get into it in the preview, but I can't see how Marju keeps his spot, and I can't see how Cogger keeps his spot.
Yeah, I can't sort of argue against that.
Yeah. So here's the press conference notes. O'Brien said it was a bad night, hard one to swallow. We worked hard to get into the 8. So now he's all of a sudden talking about ladders and ladder positions, because he told us before he doesn't look at ladders until the finals, but now he does, apparently. So the effort was okay, but it wasn't enough, and the team was unable to handle the adversity and adapt. These are comments he's made, and some players looked distracted in their performances. Well, what the fuck's going on there? Like, it's, you got 21,000 people in the rain and you're distracted in your performance. I mean, as Joey John said, hang your head in shame. So look, no gel, creativity and attack. He said it was hard to build momentum, and he used the word lackluster. Hard to disagree with that. He basically said every team has a bad, one of those games. Well, we've had 2 of them now, and that's against the Dogs. He said, he made a real bizarre comment in that conference. He basically said that in the first match against the Bulldogs, we were coming home with a wet sail. Can you remember us coming home with a wet sail against the Bulldogs?
He was watching a complete different game than I was. That was horrible.
Hey, what is he smoking? Smoking the hoochie goochie.
That was a bizarre comment. Was on a downer.
God, we came home with a wet sail against the Bulldogs. We lost 36, I think it was, to 6. That was bizarre to me, that comment. And it's not the first time I'm baffled in an O'Brien press conference, but he basically said something about the players probably they're watching the media too much, and they probably taking too much praise. They'll reading the good headlines, and then that there's something in this team. I'll get into my review soon, but I just think there's a bit of a mental and emotional kind of fragility within this squad. And then he did talk about this Price thing, and that Price has been inconsistent in the New South Wales Cup, and when questioned by someone in there in the media about Johnsy saying that he should be picked. So don't hold your breath to see Will Price in the 6 jersey, or even on his number 20 jersey playing in the 6 this week. Brayley thought that they were physical, but they needed to play smarter, and he was referring to the spine, and he said it wasn't a nice feeling in the stomach losing at home, and it certainly wasn't a good feeling in the stomach losing at home on a couch. So James, let's. You said you wanted to talk more than put down too many notes. So, what are your thoughts here? What's your final analysis of this dog shit match?
Well, I just didn't want to go overly too deep in writing points because, to be honest, there wasn't a whole lot to write about.
What's your take? What's your take?
Well, I thought we got solid start to the game, but failed to take advantage of field position. So we started really well. I thought we were really energetic with the ball. KPP and Adam Elliott were standouts early. They were really aggressive, real energetic. But off the back of that, particularly in field position, we had nothing with the ball. And, we took the 2 points early, which, at the time wasn't I didn't think too much of it. I thought, okay, take the 2, it's wet. But during that period when they had a guy off the field, we just done nothing. And we just sort of, then they scored off the back of an error by Armstrong, which was a pretty bad one. And we sort of just dropped our bum a little bit after that. And But second point, the team lost their energy and fell into a hole due to the Canterbury defense. Yeah, we started making errors. We just looked really bereft of any ideas on attack. And it sort of reminded me, like I said earlier, of the Canberra game in round 1 where things just got worse and worse, and we didn't even look like we were in the game. So I started getting that sinking feeling like, oh, this is horrible. And we didn't, we didn't trouble the scoreboard apart from the 2 points. Final point, the attack throughout the game was inept, and the Knights didn't look like scoring, and it was a very poor performance. I was just blown away with the lack of sort of penetration with the ball in attack, and no energy with the backs. We seemed to be shoveling it out. There was no sort of threats there. It was really, I just didn't see that coming. There was no.
Yeah, which is, if you put Mothendriki and Will Price into this side, you're definitely going to see an uptick in what you just described there as energy, right?
Yeah.
So, look, my points here, and I'm going to make a call. So I've called it a soft lying underbelly. It's I think ego management is a bit of a task for this squad. I think this explains the inconsistency in performance that they base this team. They're a talented team and they're a good team, and they're pretty close. But when they should win, I think they don't turn up. I think it's an attitude thing. I think it's an overconfidence thing. And I think it's highly concerning, and I don't think it's been managed well from the coaching staff. It would explain why we came out in round 1 and played. We wanted to, do the easy attacking stuff. I guess it explains as well, this game against the Bulldogs. We should have just come out and duplicated what we've done in the last sort of 4 weeks before that. And, there's just something wrong there with the boys. And I think it's an overconfidence thing. And look, I think our game plan is one-dimensional, which I don't have a problem with as long as they execute it. You execute it consistently and don't get sick of it, and that becomes your brand. But we went away from that here against the Bulldogs, and if we did that properly, we definitely would have won that match. We had enough energy, and we had enough good players on the field to win that match. So to lose it so convincingly is massively concerning. And then I don't think we can say that we're a team that adapts very well as the game goes. If we have a game plan, it either works or it doesn't. And there's no plan B that it's being executed, or if there is a plan B, it's not being executed. I think you've mentioned that before as well, mate. So
that was pretty evident on the weekend, that's for sure.
Yeah. So look, I've made some comments here on players. So Cogger's average. Haven't seen anything from this guy all year. It's nothing personal, but we're just here for this team to perform. And if they're not performing, we're going to call it out. Just call it how we see it. And that's the way it goes. So, I just think ultimately, how much longer can the coach keep backing Cogger? It's amazing. I've made a note here, which I've already said, it's a major reason why we sit on only 6 wins and not 8 or 9. Marju needs to be dropped full stop. I just can't see how this guy gets picked this week. Mapalangi, after all this waiting for this guy, and he's been through his ups and downs, and I know it's just one match, but I saw nothing from this guy except for some bad defensive reads. I didn't see a lot else that really made me think that this guy is going to be a long-term center at this club. And then, but it's one game. I hope he proves me wrong, and he has been picked in the centers this week. So whether he plays there or not, we'll find out closer to kickoff. Armstrong, he had a shocker. Let's just put it like that. And he's probably earned the right to keep his spot based on his previous 4 performances. And I've made the comment, I don't think he's a wet weather player. So be better. I'd like to see him on a drier track. But some of some of the errors that he made were critical, weren't they? So we did, and I mentioned it, but we don't get any consistency from the Safidis. We haven't had a game this year where both of them have aimed up and played 8 out of 10 plus footy as a brother duo, which is really disappointing. It's super frustrating. And in saying that, though, Jacob Safidi, I think he's probably been one of my favourite players this year. I think he's, in terms of his performance, he's been pretty good. So, look, it's an obvious statement, but the next 2 weeks are critical. And I think you made this comment, James, and I agree with it, that I think it's going to get tougher to turn these performances around. And we're potentially on the verge of a slippery slope season here. Let's quickly run over these 3-2-1s and get off this game. So, James, you had KPP for 3, Adam Elliott for 2, and Jacob Safidi for 1. Any comments there?
I thought early KPP was really good, really aggressive. Same with Adam Elliott. And a lot of these guys were based on, mainly their first half performance, because we really went to shit in the second half and there wasn't much positive to say. So the kettle whistled this week, eh? I thought he was really solid in that first half. I thought he was showing a lot of aggression and getting in there. But again, not much to say in the second half from anyone in that team. So
I thought KPP, he got my 3. I thought, he just, without looking at the stats and stuff, he was always around the ball and, always in action, making good tackles and really having a go. So he got 3 for me. Jacob Safidi, I thought he was consistent, and I think he ran the most meters, 96 meters, I think, out of all the Knights players, and just some of his runs off the back fence were good. And I really thought Brodie Jones had a go. He made one terrible error it was pretty pretty laughable error that he made when he tried to get the ball in off the sideline, and he's just a clown. But apart from that, Brodie Jones a clown.
He's having a crack.
He's definitely having a crack, and he got my 1 point there. So KPP at the Player of the Year ladder for the Knighthood podcast is now on 19 points. He's overtaken Ponga. So mate, hats off to him. Halfway through the season, young English mate, kid from the from the cold area of the world, and he's schooling our players, isn't he? Good on him. He deserves his spot there, I think, on first on merit on his performances, and yeah, it's good to see. I'd like to see Will Price given at least one game. We've backed this guy in to play and to stay in the side and get better, and maybe that's what Will Price needs. Maybe he needs to be backed and supported and gelled into this team. And maybe if O'Brien did that and did his job and coached this guy, we'd actually have a really good 5'8", and we wouldn't have this headache of seeing Cogger play like a clown every week.
Well, imagine Will Price seeing that press conference on the weekend. What would he think? He'd think this coach doesn't think much of me. So
I'd be calling my manager. I'd be calling my manager and saying, "Get me the fuck out of this place."
Yeah, because his form, he might drop his bundle in reserve grade, and you don't know what's going to happen. I just thought it was a really poor thing for O'Brien to say.
It's absolute rubbish. Yeah, it's.
You wouldn't see Wayne Bennett or someone doing that.
It's really concerning. It's really, really, really concerning when clearly this kid's got talent. And as I've just mentioned there, if he was actually backed and, nursed by the senior players of this side, we've got a highly talented player there. And that's why Andrew Johns is calling for him. That's why I'm calling for him. And it's really frustrating to see him not selected. So anyway, who knows what's going to happen this week? He might get slotted in there. But yeah, look, well done, KPP. And, overall, we've got someone who's overtaken Ponga, Jacob Safidi, Bradman Best. They've had good seasons. The Kettle, he's hot and cold, but he's fifth place there. And, we've got a lot of other players there getting some votes. So let's have a look at the NRL ladder now, the adjusted ladder that I've taken the time just to run off wins. So the teams there in bold, they've had one bye. The teams that have an underline have had two byes. So we've got the Titans and the West Tigers have had two byes. The teams in the bold have had one bye, and the teams that don't have any bold have had no byes. So the Roosters and the Cowboys have not had a bye, whereas some teams, Titans and West Tigers, have had two byes. Goes to show you that this draws a bit of a shambles. It's hard to get a read. But you've got the Sharks there in 9 wins. They're in first place, but I think the best two teams in the comp at the moment are the Panthers and the Storm. And they haven't even, set the world on fire this year, but they've been fairly consistent. Yeah. And we can still see here that we're only 1 win off the top 4. So to be in the top 4, like Dolphins, Broncos, Raiders, and Roosters are all on 7 wins. There's a cluster of team on 6. So Seagulls, Bulldogs, Knights, Dragons, and Cowboys. Very tight here in the middle part of the ladder, anywhere from 4th down all the way down to 12th. So look, we're in a position still, based on the way the cookie's crumbling. We've got 2 matches before we have another bye, and we do have an opportunity coming up this week against Melbourne, where they've got a couple of players backing up from Origin, and both teams are at a pretty similar strength rating in terms of injuries. So opportunities are there. Maybe we see a bounce back. But we're only 1 win off the top 4. That's the good news. The bad news is that it could slide pretty fast from here, and a couple of losses going into a bye. Our backs are going to be up against the wall. Why these teams, I don't think we won't be seeing a run of 10 wins this year. I don't think so. We can't be banking on that type of a finish this year. We've got to stay with this. We've got to stay within a win of the top 4, and there's an opportunity to do that when you actually look at the match this week. It's definitely winnable. So when it comes to the season, 2024 pass or fail, I'm calling it a fail. I'm calling it 2 wins short, just like Peter Parr said in his podcast last week at Knights HQ. And actually, I would add another one to that because we should have won at least one of the 2 matches against the Bulldogs. So I think I've broken this down. So in our performance, I think we've aimed up 66% of this. So basically 2/3 of matches, and then 1/3 we haven't aimed up. So if we won 66% of our 12, we should be on 8 wins. So the maths actually goes hand in hand with what we think is that we should have won that Cowboys match and the Roosters match as well. Maybe, we could have easily won a game against the Raiders, and we could have easily won one of the 2 against the Bulldogs. And, we're in a much different position, and that's how close it is. And at the moment, I think the coach has failed to capitalize on an opportunity. We could easily be on 8 wins. And if you go back to that adjusted ladder, 8 wins would get us in equal second and third spot. And we should be there. We should be there.
And it's just disappointing that, the losses that we've had have been mainly based around, the mental side of things, not showing up. Twice against the Dogs. We didn't show up really, against the Raiders. And we lost against the Cowboys, but we were actually in that game and should have won it.
Yeah. And that's where I question, is Adam O'Brien the coach to actually consistently get us into the top 4? And at this stage of the season, he's failed this year. We're on the verge of the 8. But even Peter Parr said that it's a fail. So far, we probably should have won a couple more matches. I agree with him. The maths show that as well, based off our stats there. 66%, we should be on about 8 wins. So, and under Parr starts the year based off our potential, where we should be. So it's disappointing. And like you said, because it comes down to that, it's all in between the ears, and I think how the coach is managing the team and the squad. The first couple of matches there, we've got crosses against them. I think the coach got it wrong. You didn't get the mindset of the players right. And then, the 2 matches against the Bulldogs, fair enough, we lost Ponga in the first one, but there's just no excuse for that dog shit performance last week.
No.
And there's the question now. Okay, how does the team react? How do they respond this week against Melbourne? The opportunity's still there. Okay, so go back to the ladder. We win this, put ourselves on 7 wins. Not all those teams there are going to play this week or even win or lose. So if we put ourselves on 7 wins, then we're only 1 win away from the top 2 or 3, and we'll only be 1 win off the Storm. So opportunities right there. I've just got zero confidence that we're going to take it. What do you think?
Well, in this period, I thought if we could get 2 out of 3 and then also the bye, we'd be looking good. The Melbourne the Melbourne game was the one that I was worried about, because I do think we're a big shot against the Panthers at home. But I'm expecting the boys to bounce back this week with a better performance. But whether or not we can get the win, but whether or not we will is a different story.
Well, look, as I said, I want Adam O'Brien to succeed, and I want us to perform to our potential as a club and as a team and as a squad. And okay, fuck it, we lost against the Bulldogs, fair enough. But we did say last week that if we win 2 from 3 in this period, we're on track to make the top 4. So it just comes down to now, like this is the game. They aim up.
It's got to win.
Are they? If they're that team, if O'Brien's the right coach, they will aim up here and they will make this a dogfight, and they will give 100% to get us in a position here to win this match. Now, whether we lose it or win it, it doesn't matter. We've got to be there in the last 10 minutes with a chance to win this match. And to me, that's success. If they can be there in the last 10 minutes with a chance to win, on the road in this difficult time in Origin period, that's enough for me. But yeah, God, I've got zero confidence at the moment, and I'm looking forward to the day when we are a consistent top 4 performer, and that's where our club deserves to be, and that's the track that I thought we were on, but it's a rocky road. But look, at the end of the day, if we win these next 2 matches, our whole mood's going to change, and we're going to be in a really good position, and the opportunity's there. And look, this is potentially going to be the hardest thing for us to take this year, is that the opportunity really is there, and we're not taking it at this stage. So it continues to be there in front of us, but these next 2 games will probably determine, I guess, the season. These are the 2 games that they're really got to aim up, and one way or the other, we're going to probably know where we stand at the end of this next 2 weeks. So, look, that gets us to halftime, mate. I'm glad that we got through that. It's it's I don't want to be negative and stuff it. I mean, ultimately, we're going to call it as we see it, and we're underperforming at the moment. No opportunities there. So, look, we're going to get into the review in a second, but here's a message from our season sponsor, MB Optimal Oral Care. MB Optimal Oral Care are our season sponsor of the Knighthood podcast. They have a range of zero plastic oral care products that are best for you and best for the planet. You can check out their full range of products via Chemist Warehouse online. Find the link in the description. Thanks, MB Optimal Oral Care, for sponsoring the Knighthood podcast for the 2024 NRL season. And, great zero plastic oral care products. It's time to rethink your oral health today. Jump onto Chemist Warehouse online and search MBEMBI space OOC, so MBOOC, and you'll see their full range of products, which include tongue scrapers, stainless steel and copper, and zero plastic wheat straw, which is a great one for kids. They've got an awesome toothbrush which gets around all the space in your mouth and doesn't damage your gums with the soft bristles. They've got floss picks made of silk with a silk string, so there's no plastic on those ones. They've got toothpaste tablets that you put in your mouth and you crush and brush, and it's got some ingredients in there that supports your healthy mouth environment. So they've got a little dental case that you can chuck all this stuff in and carry it and travel with it and stuff as well. And rethink your oral health today. Give them a try and support the people that support us at the United Podcast. Okay, that was a long first half, James. We've gone 56
We're at the
minutes.
hour mark. Yeah, that's all right.
That was a bit. Look, some weeks are going to be longer than others, and that's what it takes to go into the detail to really, ask the questions that need to be asked. And this is where we're at. We're in now to the round 14 preview, and we'll quickly run through here our injuries and suspensions. The Knights were at a full strength rating of 76%. We've got Bradman Best out, Tyson Gamble out, Kalen Ponga and Daniel Safidi all first team selections. They would all be in the first 13, you would think, if they were available. Now it's getting onto the Storm. 76%, same boat as the Knights in their full strength rating. They've got Pappenhausen out, Munster out, Will Warbrick and Pezzett. So, it's kind of, but really it's 50-50. It's, there's no, Pappenhausen's out, Ponga's out, Munster's out, Gamble's out. So, outside backs out, it's halves out. Very even here. We're in our first round 3 match against the Storm. We had a slight advantage in terms of our full strength rating, but the Storm had their halves out at that stage. So
Hughes is still there now, isn't he? Hughes is there.
Hughes is there this time. Look, there's no clear edge there for both sides. There's no excuses here for the Knights. Right, so we're going to go into our segment here, Fire Up. So I'm going to come out and make these calls before we see the teams list. I think Cogger should be dropped for Price. I think Marju should be dropped for Moth and Drakey. And I want to see a bit of fresh blood in the backs. And a little bit more spark. I think these are the players that you back to have in the starting team. If we're actually going to, challenge to do something, even if we scramble into the 8 or if we scramble into the 4, I think at the end of the day, Price and Moth and Drakey are better options than Marju and Cogger, and that's my call. As critical as as critical as I've been of Jenkins, I actually think he's not a half bad centre, and he hasn't had a chance to play in the centres, which is his preferred position. And Mapalangi dished up pretty ordinary match last week, so I would have been inclined to go for Jenkins. But I guess Mapalangi does he deserve a shot? Not really, actually. I'd be going with Jenkins, or I'd even be going with Lucas in the centres. As opposed to Mapalangi. And maybe that'll still happen. We don't know. I think there might be some shock changes leading into this match. And I've got a question mark there. I wouldn't drop Armstrong for Sharp, but it is a fair question to ask. And Sharp was the preferred option there for Ponga if he was out before Armstrong played 4 good matches. So, yeah, maybe we'd see Sharp. He's also on the extended reserves there. They're my players on notice for the week. The match this week is game days on Sunday, 2 p.m. at Amy Stadium down in Melbourne. We don't have a good record there. We've got a 36% win rate in Melbourne. So, I mean, overall, it's not our strike rate against Melbourne is not good, and in Melbourne it's not good. So we are up against it there. James, do you want to run us through the backs and we'll get into the teams list?
Yeah, so for the Newcastle side, we've got David Armstrong at fullback. Wingers are Anari Tuala and Greg Marziu, so retaining his spot there. In the centres, we've got Dane Gagai and Mapalangi. In the halves, we've got Jack Hogger and Hastings. For the Melbourne Storm, we've got Farlongo at fullback. On the wings, we've got Anderson and Xavier Coates. And in the centres, we've got Smith and Nick Meaney, ex-Newcastle player. And we have in the halves, we've got Tyron Wishart and Jerome Hughes. What are your thoughts there?
I just hope we don't start like that. That's my thought. Will Price, Big Mo. Big Mo won't be there because he's not even on the extended bench. So the only thing that I could see here potentially changing for the Knights would be
Price in for Cogger. Would he do that? Would he put him in?
Yeah. It could happen. It could happen. Maybe Lucas for Mapalangi. That could happen.
Because he could chip Frizzell, yeah.
And maybe Sharp for Armstrong. So, yeah, there's a few question marks there. I don't think you'll see much change from the Storm. But if we start with that back 7, yeah, I won't be confident.
Yeah.
What about the forwards?
Yeah, forwards for the Knights, we've got Jacob Saifidi and Leo Thompson, the front rowers, Jaden Brayley and captain at hooker. Back rowers, we've got KPP and Dylan Lucas with the Kettle, Adam Elliott at lock. For the Storm, we've got Christian Welsh and Kama Kamitha in the front row, and we've got Harry Grant, captain and hooker. In the back row, we've got Sean Blaw and Katoa, and we've got King there at lock forward.
Okay. So, yeah, pretty I like the look of the Melbourne pack now. We don't know if Grant's going to back up and play. Even if he does, he won't be 100% Willie. So that's good for us. I thought, yeah, look, I mean, I thought our pack looked good on paper last week. And I thought, yeah, God, let's just get off last week. We've got to look forward now. We're in the preview. So I don't mind. I don't mind the look of our forward pack up against theirs. I think it's pretty even. All right, let's get into the interchange.
Yeah, so for the Knights, we've got Phoenix Crossland, Daniel Saifidi, Tyson Frizzell, and Brady Jones on the make up the 17. For the Storm, we have Garlic, Liero, Nelson Asafa Solomona, so that's a huge one coming off the bench for the Storm.
Yeah,
he has quite the impact, and we've got
literally.
McDonald running at the 17. Yeah, the extended bench for the Knights, we have Cant, Crocker, Will Price at number 20, Hetherington, and Sharp. And for the extended bench for the Storm, we have Joe Chan, Howarth, Young, Tonopapia, Kane Bradley, and is it Jeremiah there? Laramia?
Kane Bradley. Remember Kane Bradley?
Oh, don't get me started from Cessnock, yeah.
If you're out there, Kane, you're a pest. We used to play
he was back then.
We used to play against Kane Bradley, Cessnock player. He was right up there with Marnie, wasn't he? But look, he was a good little cheeky halfback, good player. Anyway, so a bit of reminiscing there, but yeah, I don't think that's the same player. Okay, so do we see Will Price come into the starting side, or even maybe into the 14? Do we see Phoenix Crossland come into the 6 with Will Price being slotted in at 14? That's an option, and that's a viable option. In my, start blooding this guy into the side and then get Crossland in there, because Crossland's a good defender and he's a good kicker, and he's a way better player than Jack Cogger. So, and maybe Price could come in and play at 6. And, not put him under as so much pressure to start the match and play 80, but give him a shot when the time's right. And then Crossland could actually shift into his lock position or give Brayley a bit of a rest. Yeah. So
sounds good to me.
That's an option. Hopefully that's cooking in the kitchen at Knights HQ this week as we speak. Hetherington, I'm pretty sure he'll come in for Daniel Safidi. I don't think Daniel Safidi will play this week. He didn't look 100%, but maybe he's on the secret juice and he's going to. he might get on the secret juice and still make the side. Look, our bench is pretty strong. Big bad Brody Jones, Frizzell. Okay. In the ideal world, I'd push Lucas into the centres. I'd push Frizzell into the starting side. I'd bring in Hetherington for Safidi because he's probably injured. Then I'd bring in Crocker, bring him onto the bench, and to replace Frizzell. I'd have Will Price at 14. I'd have Phoenix Crossland at 6, and or I'd have Price at 6 and just drop Cogger, which would be my preferred option. So there's going to be some changes before the match. If there's not, and if O'Brien goes out with the same team and he goes in stubborn, then as far as I'm concerned, if they don't aim up, his head's on the block.
Yeah,
what do you reckon, James? Would you chop it?
Yeah.
If I gave you the axe? There it is there. Swing the axe.
Swing the axe. No, honestly, when I saw the team, I was shocked that there were no changes. I was,
and that's why I think there will be changes. Well, I hope I'm praying to the footy gods this week that there's changes.
Well, the fact that Will Price is there in 20, because he hasn't been on the extended bench for a while.
I think he was last week. Yeah.
Was he? Okay.
Hang on. I'm just going to have a quick look because New South Wales Cup, we did our preparation this week, so we're not doing much lib stuff tonight, but this is something I'd like to know is when that game is. So actually the Knights reserve grade matches on Sunday at the Centre of Excellence in Newcastle, yeah? So, it's not like the reserve grade games on the Saturdays. We won't really know what's going on until probably an hour before kickoff, I'd say. Okay, look, something here that's concerning for us Knights supporters is Adam G's a ref this week, and we've got a 31%. A 31%. You heard that here on the United podcast. Winning record with Adam G as a referee.
Not good.
And Melbourne have a 67% win rate with this guy. That is that's writing on the wall shit. Even if we do, turn up and aim up and play our best, God, that's not looking good. That in Melbourne, away from home, with a ref
parochial Melbourne crowd.
Yeah, with a ref that we don't have a good record against, and Melbourne have an outstanding record, 67% with him. That doesn't look good. And then so we've got a 40% chance of rain with humidity around 77% and a 16-kilometre-hour wind. So it can get a little bit slippery and funny down there at Melbourne. But it is a daytime match at 2:00, so maybe the conditions won't. They got short in goals there, I think, in Melbourne, right? So
yeah. Look,
we don't have a good record in Melbourne. We definitely don't have a good record with that ref Adam G, and our backs are against the wall this week. Here's some points on the final analysis. Full strength rating is equal at 76% for both sides. Melbourne have got Grant and Coates backing up from Origin potentially. They may not play, which would be good for us if they don't. So I've got no confidence in who's going to make the final 17 for the Knights, as we've seen previously, and then if they play as named, I'm very low on confidence, and Adam O'Brien's head is on the chopping block as far as I'm concerned if they don't perform. And I think the team's under notice. Coach and the team's under notice. They've got to back up that dog crap match from last week. Storm, they're going to be keen on paying us back because we beat them in round 3 by 2 points at home. The Knights in this period last year, in the Origin period, lost 3 games during this period. So that's something that's not looking good for us either. And we have a poor record in Melbourne, and Storm are coming off a bye and they're going to be fresh. So there's not too much to be positive about here. And there's not too much that's giving me a sense of confidence that we're going to bounce back and aim up. If look, the Knights are under pressure and the season could slide here pretty fast. If they get touched up here against Melbourne, it could change fast, mate. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, but also we can get the opposite. If they put in a great performance,
we can
and win moving into the Penrith game at home. It's again, that's some good momentum. But look, I expect them to play better, but it's going to be tough for them to get a win down there with everything going against them, and particularly we don't even know, like you said there in the points, the final makeup. Are there going to be any changes? If there are changes with the team that they've listed, I don't see them really troubling them scoring more points. And also Melbourne, they're a gun team in the air with a high ball. Our kick defusal has been pretty
20% last week.
Yeah, it was shocking, and that's not a strong point for us, really. So
that's another reason you pick Botham Dreckie. But anyway,
yeah. So I'm not confident at all. I do think they'll play better, but it's going to be a strange one to go into and see what they're going to come up with.
I'm not feeling good about this week. I think we're potentially going to get pumped. So let's get into the season betting tally brought to you by our preferred supplier, TopSport. If you're having a bet, do it with Toppy. So my performance here now goes to 14% profit on turnover for the year, plus 224 if you're having $100 in each of my selections. I'm tipping still at 63% accuracy, which is good. Well, it's excellent. 10 wins, 6 losses. There's a good profit there still at 14%. Happy with that. My average winning odds is $1.82. I'm 66% on live bets for the year, and I'm leaning towards doing a live bet this week if I do a bet because of the uncertainty around the Knights' potential starting side and team. And look, I was 25% return on investment before last week, and I was extremely disappointed because, it was just a match where we thought, they're building in a certain direction, and then it just everything fell out from under our feet. So Even with the loss, we're still in a good position, but my confidence levels, have really plummeted. And in terms of betting this week, I won't be making a decision until probably during the match, regardless of whatever team they name, because I think we'll get to the call in a second, but ultimately, I can't trust this team. That's it. That's the bottom line.
Well, the thing
James,
was, like last week, I mean, I was very confident in the Knights win, and I picked them to win, and I didn't see that performance coming. That's and then, like what you said, there's no confidence there. You don't know what's going to come out.
Yeah, it's disappointing. But that's the nature of betting, and that's why you got to go through a consistent process. James, you're still at 3% turnover, profit on turnover for the year, and your strike rate's not so great there at 36%, but you land bigger wins, bigger odds when you get them. So we'll get to the betting soon. I'm not sure what your decision is this week at this stage. I'm guessing if I had to bet, I'd be saying that you'll be sitting on the sidelines this week.
You'd be correct.
Okay. So, I'm almost with you, mate. And look, if you back the Knights this year, you'll be losing 4% of your money. And they're at a 50% strike rate, 6 wins, 6 losses. So if you're just straight out backing the Knights, you'd be losing 4%. If you were taking James's tips, you'd be making 3% wins, which is okay. You're not losing. You're making a profit. And with me, you're making 14% at a 63% strike rate. So look, considering that the Knights have not aimed up when they should have aimed up in a number of matches, for us to be in a profit and still, we're doing pretty good. We're doing pretty good. My aim is to be at 25% by the end of the year, but I'm going to be going much slower in the second half of this season. We're officially halfway through the season now. I've had a total of what's that? It's a total of 16 bets so far in a 24-round season. So you might not see the volume from me at this. That's my prediction. It's unless we get on a bit of a roll, we get some confidence and we get a bit more of a feel about what this team's all about. But right now, we could easily go on a losing streak. We could go on a winning streak. It's really all up in the air.
You can't pick it.
It's tough. So let's run over the odds for the match. Massive outsiders for this one, brought to you by TopSport. Knights to win, 4.45. Storm to win at $1.21. Knights at the line, which is plus 12.5 start, $1.90. So if you think the Knights are going to turn up and put in an effort this week, $1.90 for 12.5 is it's not bad. But geez, we've seen the Storm can put some points on down there in Melbourne. So that 12.5 is pretty skinny if they don't turn up and play well. So I'd be leaning the other way, Melbourne 13 plus. Knights at the moment 1 to 12, 560, and if you're going to back them to win, that's probably the odds you'd be taking, as opposed to the 4.45 head to head, or where you're getting an extra, $1.15 there. So if the Knights win, they probably win 1 to 12, not 13 plus, which is at $12. Gamble responsibly. The call for the week, you just heard James. He's not betting by the sounds of it. He's on the fence.
Yeah, I can't with any certainty, back a Knights performance or win this week. I just don't know what they're going to bit of a Jekyll and Hyde situation. So
we're not chasing profit here. We make measured decisions, and that's big reason why we put a consistent methodical process of analysis week by week, so that we can get some consistency around our decision-making process, and that's what results in profit when you do all the right things mathematically. So we're having a good year. James is a novice. I'm the expert, so to speak. So it's been a good first half of the year. Considering the team's performance, I think we've actually performed pretty well. And in a season where a lot of people are losing money betting on the NRL, it's pretty tough going out there for a lot of tipsters and pro tipsters and punters alike. Yep. So the call for me for this week is going to be tune into YouTube or tune in maybe to Twitter or X. Prior to the match, I'm going to watch the pre-match and make a decision. And I generally do that 10 minutes before the match. So tune in if you want to see what I've tipped, and then assess that against what your thoughts are, and you've got to make your own decisions at the end of the day. So if you want to use that as part of your decision-making process, jump on X and see what my tips are pre-match. And it's most likely going to be a during the play match one this week. I'd like to see how we come out and how we perform, no matter who lines up in this side. But if we go out as named 1-17, if I had a gun to my head right now, I'd be saying Melbourne will win this, and they'll win it by not just 13 plus. I'd be saying 20 or 30.
That's what I'm thinking as well.
Yeah, unfortunately, hate to say it. Yeah. All right, yeah. So we seem to be on the same page there, mate. Unfortunately, so look, that's where we're at. Good. It's where are we at? Hour and 20. So we got through the second half of the show a bit faster there. Yeah. Look, we're at a crossroads. Coming into this match, it's excitement levels are low. I'm looking forward to it on a Sunday footy. It's hard to beat Sunday footy at home. Have a nice relaxing Sunday. Watch the pre-match and see if I get a bit of a vibe in terms of the bets. But look, just from a supporter's point of view, I hope that O'Brien has a good week with the coaching staff this week, and I hope he gets the team together, and I hope we turn up and put in a really good, solid Knights performance, show a bit of grit and a bit of steel, and show a bit of pride in the jersey down in Melbourne.
Yeah, I hope so, mate. That's that. If they're not looking to do that after the wretched performance against the Dogs, then there's really something wrong going on down there. So
yeah, and God, I hope we're not in this position next week talking about a 20 or 30 or 40 point pumping. But
it's not looking good. But
it could happen. Just thinking and not having any emotion. The most likely outcome for us this week, if we are as named, is a 20 or 30 point loss.
And the thing is, there's not a lot of points in that team. If you bring a Will Price into that team, you got some more options when it comes to like an attack. But I'm not seeing a whole heap of points in that team, and I can't see them holding Melbourne to like 14 points or something like that.
Yeah, look, I think our best chance to win the match is to turn up and just do what we did there in those 4 wins in the streak, and that's just to play a higher completion style of footy, kick to the corners, kick chase, do our best to win the ruck. I think play for some late offloads, offload at the right time. Definitely give KPP a license to do that if he's in a position to do it. I just it's just really hard to we just don't know what's going to happen until we see the team and until they get out in the field. And as a supporter, I'll be cheering them on. And at the end of the day, if they go out there as named and get pumped, then the knives are going to be out from me next week.
Well, that's it. If he said in that press conference, I'm not going to go and execute guys, I think the term was what he used. And I'll tell you what, if they get pumped this week, he's going to have to make some really not so much tough decisions, because if you're not cutting it, you got to make those decisions. That's what you get paid for.
The decision, if they go out 1-17 this week and get pumped, that it's the decision's kind of forced. So
yeah.
And maybe those players who have been named deserve their spot, and maybe that's the best thing for our club, and it's our best chance to win. And look, we're on the sidelines here, and I don't think it's the best thing to do to go out name 1-17, and I'm hoping we see the squad change a little bit, and a bit of a shift in our mentality with the way we take on the game with attack. But that would only really come from personnel. If you go out there with Cogger and Hastings again, it's pretty obvious what's going to happen. Well, I hope it isn't, but it looks obvious to me.
Yeah, I think it's like what you said. We're going to have to play more in that. Get back to what they were doing prior to the Bulldogs game, just trying to erase that out of their mind. The worst thing is that they're dwelling on it and they're mentally scarred by it. So, hopefully they were working on that this week.
Yeah, look, we've beat Melbourne once this year, and they've actually got more things against them than what we do going into this match in terms of having Origin players back up and stuff. So, as we said, the opportunity is there for the Knights. It's up to them. Do they get it right or do they get it wrong this week? We'll find out on Sunday, and we'll be here to review it next week. If you've liked what we've had to say tonight, give us a like and a subscribe, and tune in each week. We're live at 7:00 here on YouTube, and we run for an hour or so, depending on what's on the menu. And then you can listen to us also on Spotify and Apple on the daily commute or at the gym, stuff like that. And social media, we are on Facebook. We don't use the page a lot. We definitely prefer X, just to give updates on bets and take and share stories from the Knights and key figures in the media. So you can tune in and follow us there on the socials. Thanks for your time, James. We're officially halfway through the season, and the opportunity is there for us to we can seize this opportunity and potentially march towards the top 4 finish. But the next 2 weeks are critical, and hopefully they aim up.
Yeah, it's the ball's in their court. They've got to take that opportunity and get excited about taking that opportunity and really see that in the a few weeks' time, if they deliver the goods, we'll be up there. So I'm hoping the boys are seeing it, looking at it like the way we're looking at it, and seeing it as there's some good things ahead if they can get a couple of wins here.
Yeah, 100%. All right, well, let's go out with the winning Knights team song, and hope that we see that on our X feed at the end of the match on Sunday.
See you, mate.
Thanks again, mate.